And we're back. Hope everybody's having a good day, having a good time. Chef Josh again from IUP Hospitality Management Department here in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Coming to you from my home kitchen right now. I'm pretty excited about this recipe in this video. Just Earth Day a couple days ago, 50th anniversary, and Earth Day means a lot of stuff growing, blossoming, blooming. One of my favorite things, mushrooms and ramps. Wild morel mushrooms here. We're going to be doing this. So we got a few different varieties here. Wild ramps, also called a wild leek. Super delicious, super good. Go out in the woods with someone who knows what they're doing. Try and find them. Find a friend. A lot of this stuff you can buy online too. But nothing compares to a nice wild morel mushroom. Today I'm going to show you a technique on salmon. I'm going to show you a nice pan sear so you get that nice crispy seared flaky crust on the top. A nice texture with that delicate salmon. It's going to be really nice. Alright, so a few ingredients to start with. Of course, we have our mushrooms and ramps. Now, ramp is like a mix between like wild garlic and onion, so they call it a wild leek. We got our bright white part here. Gonna chop that up. You're gonna saute that just like an onion or a garlic clove, and then we can just finally chiffonade our green parts. We'll throw those in right at the end for some extra flavor. Morel mushrooms. Pretty much just like another mushroom. We're going to cut these up. You can slice them, cut them in half. See how they're completely hollow on the inside. Cut those in half. A nice small one. Split that one right in half. If you want to, you can cut them like this. Get nice little rings of morel. You get a nice earthy flavor and aroma from that. Wild ramps again. Clean these. They usually come out of the ground with like a root system on them right on the end. You clean them just like a green onion. Give them a rinse. Knock the dirt off. There's going to be an extra little layer. It's going to peel that away down to the root. And you just snap the root right off. There's a little tiny root left right on there. Break that right off. Then you just take them. And you just slice them. And again, just like a leek, where you have that big white part down at the bottom, then you get into the green tops. So we've just sliced those into some decent sized pieces. These we're going to do chiffonade, which is like a fine ribbon cut. And these we will throw into our sauce right at the end. With the salmon, we're going to do a pan-seared salmon with a nice white wine lemon butter sauce to go with our wild ramp and morels. So, last ingredients, got our white wine, fresh lemon, and chilled butter. Pretty simple recipe once again. Of course, we can't forget about our salmon. So, I'll finish cutting these up. Slice these. Keep them all separate. Save your stems. Leave that guy whole. Pretty small. Maybe I'll leave that one whole too. Again, morels, all different shapes and sizes. Just make sure you know what you're looking for if you're going out and finding them on your own. Take a field guide, take a friend, and you will be rewarded. So I'll finish cutting the ramps up. You can do a lot of stuff with ramps too. I like to dehydrate some of them, turn them into like a powder, and put it into a seasoning. You can also dehydrate your morels and just rehydrate them like you would any dried mushroom. when you dehydrate mushrooms, you get almost like two products out of it. So you dehydrate it, take all the moisture out, and then to rehydrate it and utilize it, you got to put it in hot water. Now, when you do that, you get all like byproduct is a mushroom broth, and a very delicious one at that, because morels are very flavor packed, and you get that mushroom broth with your newly rehydrated, reconstituted morel. If you're doing that, really good application for it. Or you just eat them fresh if you want them right now, or if you pick too many, you found a nice spot, you can dehydrate them, saute them, put them into a compound butter, really anything. Okay, so we have our morels and ramps ready to go. Now when we sear a fish, or really anything, see that gloss it has on it? It's got that natural moisture in it. So when you sear something, you want that nice crispy crust, and moisture is not going to be your friend for that. So, got a couple paper towels. Just folded it. We're just going to put this right on the top of the salmon. We're going to take away that extra moisture. Look at how much moisture just came off of that, just from there. That's going to give you that nice hard sear when you put it into your saute pan. Okay, we've got it dry. We'll season it with salt and pepper, and then we're going to get it into our saute pan and give it a nice sear. All right, now we're back over here. I've seasoned my salmon. Nice liberal seasoning, giving a nice coat. You don't want to season it too early after you dried it off, because that salt is going to naturally draw the moisture back out of the salmon. So you want to season it with salt and pepper right before you sear it. Got our saute pan here. You can really use any pan you want. If you have a non-stick skillet, that works. Cast iron back here I like. I'm using just a regular stainless steel saute pan over a medium heat right now. Got some olive oil. And I've also got my fish spatula. You see how thin this is? Nice and thin. You can slip it right underneath that fish fillet, as opposed to a like more traditional, thicker spatula. Okay. So we've had our pan preheating. Gonna get our oil in there. Make sure it gets really nice and hot. So almost shimmer right on the top. Okay, you can feel it. It's super hot. You really want to make sure you have a nice hot pan before you sear. And we are going to sear this side first, which is our presentation side. Now it's the nicest side. You can see I saw the skin on this salmon fillet. I could sear the skin side first if I wanted that nice crispy skin. I would just score it with a very sharp knife, so that whenever it hits the pan, it doesn't just seize up, and it'll make your fish kind of curl up, and it won't give you an even cook. So now, like anything with hot oil, we're going to take the salmon and just gently place it in the pan away from you, making sure our surface area is covered in that nice super hot oil, and we are going to sear it. If you're doing this at home, I would advise one of these splatter guards so your range top doesn't get spattered with hot oil, because this does take a few minutes to get that nice hard sear. Okay, we don't want to mess with it right now. We're going to let it go. We don't want to move it around. Try and pick it up when it's not ready, because the flesh will actually tear off and it might flake apart. You won't get that nice, even, solid sear on your fish. You do this with a steak. You can do this with a pork chop. Fish, like salmon, maybe some halibut would be nice to sear. You can sear a chicken breast. Again, same technique, same steps, same procedure. Just depends on what you're cooking. You can see it begins to cook down here at the bottom. You can see the color change. Let that go just a couple more minutes. I'm going to get our other pan ready to finish this in the oven with. Okay, our salmon has been in the pan for about 3 or 4 minutes. Now we're going to slide this spatula into there, and we're not going to force it, but whenever the salmon lifts off the pan easily, that's when you know your sears are. It's a little bit stuck down there in the end, so I'm going to let it sear just a little bit longer. Until it's hot with all that smoke. We're going to get rid of some of this oil after we sear it. And again, this slightly bent, nice thin spatula coming in handy now to gently lift our salmon and turn it. You can see that beautiful seared presentation side. We're going to sear the skin side just a little bit of crisp. We'll remove it, put it in our pan, put it in the oven, and then we will start our sauce while the salmon finishes in the oven. You can see how it's cooked. Give you a little indicator of where it's cooked to. Our sear, and we've got that orangish pink flesh has turned like a white. That's how you know it's cooked. Still a little bit of orangish pink in there. So you're still going to want to cook it just a little bit longer. Okay, and again, whenever it releases easily, you know you're ready. And our skin's gently seared. We'll move that into our other dish. Turn our heat down for now, and we're going to put this in the oven to finish cooking and get ready to make our sauce. Okay, our salmon's in the oven. We still have our saute pan. What we're going to do now is make what we call a pan sauce. Pretty common in restaurants to use the same pan. You have all that fond in there. You know, if you ever sear something, if you ever make a roast, sear a steak, sear a piece of chicken, you still have all that flavor you've built in there from searing it. And now we're going to utilize that to enhance our sauce. So I've got rid of some of the oil because we got it pretty hot. I don't want that bitter flavor in there. Got a little more oil, not too much. I don't want it to take away from the white wine and butter flavor. So we're going to have this over a low heat after we've seared our salmon. And now we're going to add our ramps and morel mushrooms. And we're going to saute those, give them a nice sear. Now you might notice when you're sauteing mushrooms that they absorb all that liquid. Mushrooms like to do that. They like to absorb all the liquid. Don't worry. Let them go. You don't want to add too much more oil and then they just get soggy and just taste like oil. We're going to sear them, get a nice flavor on them, move them around just a little bit. Make sure we're sauteing everything nice and evenly. Getting a little bit of color on our ramp bottoms and mushrooms. A little toss. Now you don't need much. These ramps and mushrooms are pretty tender. So you see how they've already softened up quite a bit. Now we're going to deglaze with our white wine. Going to let that reduce a little bit. Again, maybe use the wine to get your fond off from your seared salmon. Add that to the sauce. Everything enhances it a little bit. Have our white wine. And we're going to add our second acid, which is our lemon. Lemon juice and white wine and seafood just go together so well. I'm going to do about a half a lemon squeeze. Making sure we don't get any seeds in there. And now we're going to reduce this by half and just let it cook down slowly while our salmon finishes in the oven. Bring that up to a gentle simmer. You can reduce it, and then we will do our final step, adding our butter to make our white wine butter sauce with the morels and wild ramps. Okay, we've cooked it down. You can see how our white wine lemon reduction has thickened up a little bit. We're going to toss our ramp tops back in just to wilt them. Cook them just a little bit. Let that reduce just a little bit longer. Okay, we've got our reduction in there. Our salmon's finishing in the oven. Again, it's all about timing when you're cooking. I want everything to come together at the same time. So we need to season this with a little bit of salt and pepper. Okay. So now we're going to turn off the heat. We're going to let it cool down just a little bit before we add our cold butter. Now what we're going to do here, we don't want this sauce to break, and butter is already in a emulsified state. So if you ever melted butter, you notice it separates butter solids from the actual like butter fat. So what we want to do is we're going to keep that emulsification as we make this sauce. We don't want it to break. We don't want that fat to separate and make it have like an almost greasy look. So we're going to let this cool down just a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to add our butter, and we'll just start swirling it around, gently melting the butter and incorporating it into our mushroom wild ramp white wine and lemon sauce. And you see how it just so emulsifies, so it has that nice creamy look to it. Okay. Our sauce is ready. Set that to the side. Come over here. Take our salmon out of the oven. That's nice and finished. Nice and firm to the touch. And using our fish spatula to gently take it out of the pan. Place it on our plate. If you have anything else to go with it, if you had a nice starch, maybe some rice, nice potato puree, anything you want. For now, we're just going to finish it with our mushroom sauce. And you notice I'm not pouring the sauce right over the salmon. I don't want to undo all of that searing that I just did to get rid of that crispy crust by just dousing it in a liquid. And we've got this, get all of our ramps out of the pan. And nice little presentation, nice little swirl around the salmon. There you have it. Seared salmon, wild ramp and morel mushroom butter sauce. Maybe pour a little extra wine you sauteed your fish with, and enjoy.